What's going on, y'all? It's Rob with CinemaBullyZ. Today I'm going to talk about what breeders prefer to breed. And what I mean by that is when it comes to physical defects versus defects that you cannot see exteriorly. So what I mean is, for example, a breeder that knowingly breeds defects that cannot be seen, which are heart murmurs, nasal cavity obstructions, or misformations that they didn't form correctly, high anxiety, overbites, underbites, which they're not really, more so they're internal because it's inside their mouth, but it's not, organ related. Then you have, allergies that can cause issues internally and externally. But that's an example of more so internally or internal defects that you could not see from the outside looking at the dog. So externally, defects would be, weak pasterns, straight stifles, kink tails, underbites, overbites, hip dysplasia also is a internal defect. You cannot see that from the outside, but you can get a good idea if a dog does have hip dysplasia by the way that their hips look. I mean, it's hard to really describe. I'd have to show you a dog that has it. But there is definitely a difference in between a dog that has good hips and then bad. So this is an example of a couple things. So now, most breeders prefer to breed dogs with internal defects because you can't see them. So they can sell you a dog or do a breeding with you and say that their dog is, health checked, everything's good with it, it has no issues, no murmurs, no nasal passageway defects, no hip dysplasia, no allergies, no whatever. And there's no way to prove that otherwise without getting documentation from a vet. So most breeders prefer to breed dogs like that because it doesn't change the image that you see externally with the dog. So I have an issue with that. Most real breeders and dog men, women have issues with that because you're breeding dogs that have internal defects that cause these dogs not to live long, and it is ruining the breed because it is, infecting it. It's, it's gonna cause problems for years, not just one breeding or two. Those bad defects you're breeding into these dogs last 5 generations until eventually you can get it breeded out. But eventually, even then, breeding it out, you still might have 1 or 2 pups a litter that had that defect that you bred out or tried to breed out. So, and that's a problem because the market's getting flooded. People are breeding dogs that should not be bred, especially with internal defects. External you can fix. Not saying it's right to breed external defected dogs, but I've done it. I know everyone I know in this bully game has done it. And you can fix that with proper breeding. Now, external defects that I bred was kink tail, weak pasterns, a crooked paw, which is a result of vitamin deficiency. It's something that I learned because that was my first dog, and I learned it and bred it actually pretty much out of my blood now because I got 3 generations of her blood, and they do not throw that messed up paw. So I did it through trial and error, and I experimented with different remedies and different techniques to ensure my blood wouldn't carry that defect further. And as of right now, it's not, because I've had litters off of her offspring and have not thrown that defect. Now, not saying it couldn't happen. Yes, it can. And that's what people need to understand. Just because you're breeding out a defect doesn't mean it can't pop up still. But external defects, like I said, can be fixed with proper breeding and knowing what you're doing as a breeder, or a dog man or dog woman, whatever you consider yourself. So I would take, being a breeder that breeds externally wrong or defective dogs over breeders that knowingly breed dogs that have internal problems. And then the internal problem dogs don't live past 2, usually. Some live longer, yes. Most die by the age of 2 or younger. I know dogs that have died at 7 months old. I know dogs that have died at 2 years old, or a little over 2, all from internal defects. And I know they had it because I know who they are. I know who they deal with. I know who the owners are of the dogs. And they've all been checked by vets. They've been told not to be bred. And still happens somehow. And that is not right. It's not right by the breed. I don't know how even people in this breed that, say that they are for the breed think it's acceptable. It's not. And something's going to happen eventually, but in due time. But we need more stand-up breeders that understand that breeding dogs with internal defects and external defects shouldn't be happening, especially with internal defects. Like I said, externals can be fixed, but if you just keep breeding external defects with all your dogs because you just don't care and you just want to produce, that's not right either. I had 3 litters fixed the dog. That's it. And I did it for trial and error, learning purposes for myself as getting into this breed, because I did pit bulls for 12 years with my dad or longer, and they really don't have any defects. Them dogs are game dogs. They're healthy. It's hard for them to even die. So, like I said, know what kind of breeder you're dealing with, because you can see by their yard. If their whole yard is fucked up, then they definitely have external problems. But if they all live long, then maybe they don't have internal problems. The dog or someone's yard can look great, and they all look amazing. They're all very, structurally sound, let's say. They're not perfect, but they're sound. But then their dogs die every 2 years. They have one of their dogs die. Maybe more than one. Then they blame it on everything else. Heat stroke. Oh, I forgot to leave the air on. The dog was playing too much. The dog ate poison. Got bit by a spider, which is the dumbest shit I ever heard. And all of a sudden the dog dies. No, the dog had an underlying condition that you did not talk about or want people to know, because you say you sold puppies off that dog, or you owe stud credits off that dog to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 people. And you don't want that to be disclosed, because then you don't want these people not paying what they owe for their stud fees, or asking for their money back because your dog died from whatever internal problem it had. So, this is a real video. This is not, like I said, I don't bring names in this stuff. But there's a wrong way of doing this. There's a right way, and there's something in between. People like me are going more towards the right way. There's other people that are in between, and there's other people that just don't give a shit, and they're just 100% wrong. Now, a lot of those people you look up to in this game that do this, and you just don't know because you don't know who they really are. So, like I said, I've had friends of mine try to buy dogs for big money, and I'm talking 15, 20 grand, you know, which some of you might say, oh, that's not that much. That's a lot of money for a dog. I don't give a shit what dog it is. And so one person, I'm not going to say his name, but I mentioned it in another video. The dog looked structurally sound. It was a real bully female. And my buddy asked the owner for a health certificate and an evaluation of the dog to seal the deal so he can buy the dog. And my boy had the money. He was going to buy her and use her for his program. And the guy laughed and pretty much said, fuck you. I'm not getting no records, so nothing. It's either you buy the dog or you don't. Sounds like that dog's fucked up to me. Internally, there's something wrong with that dog. So that's just an example. But, you know, be aware of who you're dealing with. Be aware of who you look up to. Be aware of who you followed advice from. I'll talk about dogs with just about anybody unless I really don't like you or get a weird vibe from you, and I won't bother. Some people might not like me. Most of the people that don't like me is because I speak the truth, and people can't handle that, and they won't do nothing about it either. But, you know, the truth is what's going to fix this breed eventually, if it ever does. Because there's too much money involved in this. There's too much, you know, hands in other people's pockets that you got to worry about. And eventually you'll get shunned from events, and you might have the best dog and you won't win anything because you opened your mouth to the wrong person or whatever the case is. And if that's what it is, then that's when everything comes out. Names start flying, and, you know, they just show under different registries. That's all. No big deal. I say I like the dogs. I don't really. The shows are fun. It's cool. It's fun to see people that I do like and talk dogs and have a good time. But eventually everything gets old. You do this for a long time. You know, say you do this for 10 years. After 10 years, you really don't give a shit after that. I got 4 or 5 years in it now, and I'm starting to feel that way just because of how flooded the market is and what I see. So, you know, people only stay quiet for so long. But, like I said, be aware. Make sure you get a good mentor. And, you know, try to do the right thing at all times. Very few people I know do that. And I respect all you that do that. And you know who you are. A lot of them I talk to on a monthly basis. Some on a daily basis. Some on a weekly basis. And there's very few camps that I actually give that respect to and will never talk bad about. And I really don't talk bad about nobody. Select few I don't like, and that's it. Besides that, everybody else is cool in my book. So, hope this helped you guys out. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, hit me up on Instagram or Facebook if you got any, you know, questions, unless you just want to post it up on YouTube. And hope to see you guys at the next shows. If you do, come up and say what's up. Hope this YouTube channel helps you guys out a lot. And that's all I got. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Later.